You already know what time it is. Hotep to the comedic fam, the comedic TV hour. You heard me? But today I know we're gonna get into a little bit of this January 1st, this New Year's thing. I know a lot of y'all about to get ready to celebrate, do y'all thing. Shit, not telling you not to. You know, if you do, definitely be safe with your celebrations. But I will drop a few jewels today and some facts on what this day meant for our people, my people, during the slavery days, and what it meant for slave masters back in them days. And hopefully after this, you can look into it yourself, look into your own facts, and you know, do your search, and hopefully it you know, open up your eyes, open up your minds to a few things that we always got to constantly search and dig, especially when it comes to these holidays. Most of us just celebrating it due to, it being family oriented and growing up, and, that's what we know. A lot of us don't reach to search and, see what's really going on or what these holidays really mean. So, let's get into a few things, a few facts. Um, First, of why the New Year is not January 1st, and you can look it up yourself. Read a few notes. I got down for you, whatnot, and yeah, like I said, this is not going to be a whole history on slavery. This is just not a history on what you know the real New Year's Day is. But I figured I'd just add a little bit of that on that end to the facts. As later on, I read a note from an actual slave girl who wrote the brief note or brief little documentary or whatever you want to call it. And you can look her name up and read the facts for yourself as always. So let's get into a little bit of what I got down for you. The real New Year is when the cycle of life begins, again with new growth. This is the beginning of the spring, called the vernal equinox. It happens on March 20th and into the point in time when the length of both days and night are equal. You can't begin something anew in the dead of winter. So you could look that up, and that goes back until, of course, what should be in my notes is we talking over 400 to 200,000 years ago. So, stating that when the real first cultures were celebrating in March, around March 20th and March 25th, is when they celebrated. January 1st, 1752, the switch from March 25th to January 1st is the first day of the year. That was to conform it to the Gregorian calendar. The celebration of the New Year on January 1st is a relatively new phenomenon. So even though it came about, like I want to say around the 1500s, and then they somehow said, nah, that's not right. Went back into, of course, March and things like that. And then later on, they got back into celebrating it on the first. The earliest recording of a New Year celebration is believed to have been in Mesopotamia in 2000 BC and was celebrated around the time of the vernal equinox in mid-March. It is said that Pope Gregory re-established January 1st as New Year's Day in 1582. Most Catholic countries adopted the Gregorian calendar, but the British and America started later on. As we know, Christian countries tried to break away from Catholic countries or Catholic people in them days to, of course, have their own following, their own religion and things we see today. So right there is just a few little brief things you can look up and you know check into it on your own comment. Definitely comment. Let me know what you think. I'll be bringing some of these up later dates. I have the celebrations and traditions that they did and went by. We'll get into those, but like I said, today is just briefing so to show and let y'all know. Before you celebrate things and celebrate stuff, look into the stuff, look into the history, and just do a little searching. Always reading. See, a lot still not reading, and even with the smartphones and smart devices, you can just download, free books and free things. It's just always a way to search and, just seek to find, because a following can lead you to bad things, of course, bad habits, of course, and down a bad spiritual lane, which you don't not want to be in. So let's get into this letter by one of our ancestors that was a slave, letting us know why our people dreaded January 1st and what New Year's Eve meant for our people back in them slave days. So that's to give you a little heads up to why, if you're celebrating, well, celebrate for the ancestors, but don't celebrate for the people that enslaved us, or however you need to do it, to make things feel right for you. But for me, as you know, being spiritual, I will be celebrating mine between March 20th and 25th, when things do come anew, and when the real new growth period of the planet is. So we will get into that as I drop some pictures and some facts. You already know. Hotep. Now to get into the brief writing from the young slave girl, our ancestor, incidents of the slave girl. Dr. Flint owned a fine residence in town, several farms, and about 50 slaves, besides hiring a number by the year. Hiring day at the South takes place on the 1st of January. On the 2nd, the slaves are expected to go to their new masters. On a farm, they work until the corn and cotton are laid. They then have 2 holidays. Some masters give them a good dinner under the trees. This over, they work until Christmas Eve. If no heavy charges are brought against them, they are given 4 or 5 holidays, whichever the master or overseer may think proper. Then comes New Year's Eve, and they gather together their little alls, or more properly speaking, their little nothings, and wait anxiously for the drawing of the day. At the appointed hour, the grounds are thronged with men, women, and children waiting like criminals to hear their doom pronounced. The slave is sure to know who is the most humane or cruel master within 40 miles of him. It is easy to find out on that day who clothes and feeds his slaves well, for he is surrounded by a crowd begging, "Please, master, hire me this year. I will work very hard, master." If a slave is unwilling to go with his new master, he is whipped or locked up in jail until he consents to go and promises not to run away during a year. Should he chance to change his mind, thinking it justifiable to violate an extorted promise, woe unto him if he is caught. The whip is used till the blood flows at his feet, and his stiffened limbs are put in chains to be dragged in the field for days and days. If he lives until the next year, perhaps the same man will hire him again without even giving him an opportunity of going to the hiring ground. After those for hire are disposed of, those for sale are called up. Oh, you happy free woman, contrast your New Year's Day with that of the poor bond woman. With you, it is a pleasant season, and the light of the day is blessed. Friendly wishes meet you everywhere, and gifts are showered upon you. Even hearts that have been estranged from you soften at this season, and lips that have been silent echo back, I wish you a happy new year. Children bring their little offerings and raise their rosy lips for a caress. They are your own, and no hand but that of death can take them from you. But to the slave mother, New Year's Day comes laden with peculiar sorrows. She sits on her cold cabin floor, watching the children who may all be torn from her the next morning, and often does she wish that she and they might die before the day dawns. She may be an ignorant creature, degraded by the system that has brutalized her from childhood, but she has a mother's instincts and is capable of feeling a mother's agonies. On one of the sales days, I saw a mother lead 7 children to the auction block. She knew that some of them would be taken from her, but they took all. The children were sold to a slave trader, and their mother was bought by a man in her own town. Before night, her children were all far away. She begged the trader to tell her where he intended to take them. This he refused to do. How could he when he knew he would sell them, one by one, wherever he could command the highest price? I met that mother in the street, and her wild, haggard face lives today in my mind. She wrung her hands in anguish and exclaimed, "Gone, all gone. Why don't God kill me?" I had no words wherewith to comfort her. Instances of this kind are of daily, yea, of hourly occurrence. Slaveholders have a method particular to their institution of getting rid of old slaves whose lives have been worn out in their service. A new and old woman who for 70 years faithfully served her master. She had become almost helpless from hard labor and disease. Her owners moved to Alabama, and the old black woman was left to be sold to anybody who would give $20 for her. $20. $20. 70-year-old of our ancestor worked on a slave fucking plantation and was left to be sold for $20. This is what our people endured and went through on New Year's Eve before the 1st of January, knowing that they were going to be torn apart. Father gone, mother sold to someone else, while kids were being taken to another, matter of fact, to you don't even know where. How long they were going to live. It's crazy. Hotep.